5 minutes of preaching, 10 minutes at the end, just about this idea of abnormal. The other, we can get that in as well. Okay, so let me pick up with borderline. The slide I mentioned that, you guys have this, but so I struggle with sort of explaining the difference between some of these, like narcissistic and histrionic are pretty similar. Kind of tough, I hate to say this, I'm going to be really honest. I feel like a lot of people, narcissistic personality disorder, just think of it as more men and histrionic as being more women. I know that sounds, I'm not saying that I'm sexist, or I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm saying that's what I find just people do in general. Like in a book, they generally are going to show you a guy. It's like 75% of the time NPD is a man. Okay, so it's not, it's probably skewed, but in histrionic, I don't know the percentage, but the vast majority is female. And actually a younger female usually is what comes to mind. I don't mean that in a rude way at all. Okay? So, borderline personality disorder, more men or women? How many of you say women? How many say men? How many say I don't know? Okay, it's women. Okay? More women are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. It's interesting how some of these things do get pretty gendered. Okay? I'm not saying the gender part of it is reality. Just remember that it could be that we tend to be pretty sexist as clinicians or anybody. But also these things have more sort of feminine, masculine characteristics to them. So narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial, more masculine or feminine?
Masculine?
Both more masculine. Okay, that doesn't mean you don't see it in both genders, but you're going to see it like almost 2 to 1 in both cases. You're going to see it more men than women. Borderline, more women than men. Okay? All right, so some things, impulsive and self-destructive behavior, you guys have already alluded to, which is really good. The connection here between bipolar and borderline. I'd say that one of the things that really also separate out, maybe put it a different way, how you know the difference between bipolar and borderline. I use that as a short answer actually once upon a time. I don't do that anymore. I think it's too hard. But is that the difference is the borderline is more relationship, and bipolar is more just obviously energy, grandiosity, and mania. Okay? While they both have those, one's more in relationship. Does that make sense? With a borderline client, you could look at, for instance, that the suicide, the recklessness, and all that being tied to another individual that they believe caused that in them. That would be the hallmark thing for borderline. Does everybody kind of see that? This is, by the way, also why I think we have to be really careful with borderline as a diagnosis for young people. Why? Let's see if you guys are following me on this trail. Why do I think, some people say borderline should be diagnosed until you're 25. I would tend to agree with something like that. Awesome.
Because it's lifelong. It could affect that person if they're really young. They could be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Excellent. Okay, so you got that element of it, and with all these labels, right? So I'm borderline, so then I kind of just go ahead and live out all those behaviors. I don't grow past them. I just see that as who I am, self-fulfilling prophecy. There's that element, but there's something else too. Start.
It's because children are more dependent on their parents, so there's that like relationship part of it.
Good. I'm going to try to say, I think what you're saying in different words kind of go with what I'm for. Do you want to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, like when you're a child, or when you're younger, it'll be more extreme emotions being shown for certain things, not so much as like the checked emotions.
Good. Actually, this is going to, Courtney?
Personality isn't completely developed until they're older.
Put all 3 of those together. Absolutely. Good. Okay, so that one actually in particular I want the most, though, real quick, is that's the point I'm making is, technically speaking, as I look at, again, the average age in here, I don't know, I'm going to guess the average age in here is about 18 or so, something like that, is you all know in this society, look at 18-year-olds. You look at every 18-year-old and you're like, full-blown adult, that's who they are. No way. And I don't mean that in a rude way. I don't think at 18 I was, okay? So, I mean, I would say on a personal note, I'd say 21, 22, maybe something like that, when I actually was working full-time, that kind of stuff. Our society doesn't really gear it so you can even be fully grown up at that point, right? Then you move away from home. You hopefully are mature, but maybe not. So anyways, the point I'm going to make is you're not fully developed as a personality even. Probably somewhere between 18 and 25 does it really calcify and like that's who you are. That's one. 2, you mentioned really good. Young people actually have more extreme emotions, right? They haven't learned to master their emotions yet. If one of you had a meltdown, I wouldn't think, probably a personality disorder, right? No, I think you're young and you're overwhelmed and that's like it's tough being 17. I don't envy that. 17 is kind of tough, okay? I mean, it's tough as you're older too, but it's not quite the same. I feel like there's this kind of weird adult-child expectation on teens in particular. So there's that, and then absolutely, good. There's still a dependency issue, right? If you're still dependent on your parents and you're reacting towards your parents, how do we know it's not so much that than really a self that's developed? Because we're really getting actually the point what I'm kind of going for here is that I think you're really reluctant. By the way, could you use this in your problem of personality disorders? Short answer. Yes. Okay, so you're getting at. There's more to it than that, but this is definitely part of that. Is these things aren't set. We have to be kind of reluctant to judge the context of one's behavior. And I also like to point out too, just like even in counseling, is that your first relationship, you're going to act pretty erratic. Right? So if you end up overreacting to a relationship, it's like, well, they don't come with user manuals. Some are easier than others. Some people rolls off their chest. Some people are devastated by it. So, all right. How do theorists explain borderline personality disorder? Because of fear of abandonment tortures so many people with the disorder, psychodynamic theorists look at early parental relationships. Okay, so I'm not going to go too far down the psychodynamic route, as you guys know, with these, but I do want to say there's a lot of evidence of your relationship with your parent playing out in this. If somebody came in with a personality disorder, and I'm actually thinking of every single one that I've worked with, there wasn't one who wasn't traumatized or abused. Okay? I couldn't give you, it's not a perfect figure, but it's my own opinion, so not good science, sorry to say my own opinion, but I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of the people that have BPD have childhood abuse, and usually actually even from a parent or family member. Now that says a lot, does it not? I think it does, okay? I think this idea of, in fact, that's why some people think it's almost cool to put a label on that, is the person's acting out in their relationships abusive behavior from their family of origin, okay? And that part seems kind of cruel to give them a diagnosis, but the diagnosis helps if it's something that lasts through a lifetime. Okay, let me keep going. Just so you know, BPD, they say, is a little less than 2% of the population, and I did want to give you an update on that. It's 400 times the population, when I said that, will attempt. It's not like successfully. But it is 10% actually of people with BPD will successfully take their own life. That's really high. Okay? Okay. They don't have, just real quick, book's going to go down this. I don't think it's worth doing this, but like there's stuff with the amygdala and all that, but I don't know about getting into the neuroscientific differences with people with personality disorders. I think really a better way of looking at it is, I think these are really kind of trauma disorders, and then more so with like antisocial, I hate to say this, irregular brain functioning, okay? Where literally the person doesn't have certain empathy skills, and I think some of that is hard. They know that it starts in childhood. People don't become antisocial, generally speaking, like at age 30. Usually kind of has a pathology the whole way through. Okay. Histrionic. Real quick. People with, I don't focus on this one as much, but people with histrionic personality disorder are extremely emotional and continually seek to be the center of attention. It came up in my intro class, so I don't think it was you guys. We were talking about, they're doing kind of abnormal stuff, and somebody said, like, if you take a selfie every day, does that make you have histrionic or narcissistic personality disorder? What do you guys think?
No, not necessarily.
It's not in the DSM, and we all agree that it's not. And then a student said, well, what if somebody posts a selfie every single day? There's no diagnosis. What do you guys think? I'm just throwing an opinion out there. Well, okay, this brings up a really good question. The reason I like the question is not because I'm attacking selfies or anybody actually posting culture or whatever. The reason I bring it up is, can you see how cultural that is? The word selfie didn't exist when I was your age, okay? The idea of a selfie, it's not that nobody took a camera and took a picture of themselves, people did, but that was kind of a waste of film, and it took you a while to even get access to that picture, so who would do it, right? The idea is people do selfies because you can check it in like 1 second if you wanted to, right? You live in a whole different age. There's that, and the idea of what a selfie means is, well, actually, let's try it this way. Has anybody in here never taken a selfie? Okay, that's my point. Okay. Don't feel, this is not to judge anybody. In other words, so now that I just said it didn't exist 20 years ago, okay, and I'm dating myself, that's fine. 20 years ago, no selfies, okay? But at the same time, too, I'm going to go as far as saying 95% of you said you've done this behavior before. So where am I driving at? I'm driving at, this is really cultural stuff we're talking about, isn't it? We have a culture of narcissism and histrionic behavior that is also way different than it ever was. Is everybody with me on the point I'm trying to make here? In other words, qualifying and trying to symptomize these behaviors is problematic. It's tough because they mean something different right now than say they did 20 years ago. maybe what they'll mean in 20 years. Maybe the idea of somebody saying they've never taken a selfie is like, what? How could you never do that? You don't love yourself, you know, I don't know. But that would be, in other words, very cultural. Everybody get the point I'm making here? So we have to be kind of careful on how we understand these behaviors. And I also want to point out that you oddly do live in, I like to point it out, when Facebook became, I was already an adult when Facebook came out. So Facebook is, what, narcissism and voyeurism, isn't it? That's what Facebook is. We've been doing it on TV. I had TV as a kid too, okay? It's not like I wasn't there. It's like I didn't love watching other people. But then all of a sudden they figured out that there's a way of spying on other people, right? And then having other people look at you and it wouldn't be problematic at all. That's called Facebook, right? Or social media or whatever you want. You see where I'm going with this? So the reason I bring this up is not a small thing. These disorders are being diagnosed in like record quantities right now. And the reason I'm pointing it out also, why I'm saying it could be problematic, personality disorders, is, isn't this also a little bit of a sign of our culture? I mean, kids are being given mixed messages about what it means to promote oneself, to brand oneself, about the way we're supposed to look. Oh my gosh. It's like, I couldn't even imagine growing up in your age, to be honest. I know I sound like an old person saying that, but you'd be surprised. It makes a huge difference. Okay, that being said, approval and praise are the lifeblood of these individuals. People with histrionic personality disorder are often described as vain, self-centered, and demanding. I also like to point out that most kids are vain, self-centered, demanding. That's part of being a kid, even very healthy kids. Suicide attempts often to manipulate others. Which other disorder did I say they do that? Borderline. Good, so it's an overlap there. I'm not going to go into psychodynamic and all that stuff. Okay, narcissistic we talked about briefly. Also, I just want to make this point. You could make it as well. We live in an age of narcissism. Obviously, when several people are writing articles about the President of the United States suffering from a personality disorder, that says a lot about the day and age we live in. So even though I know I didn't go over chapter 16 with you guys, personality disorders to me are like a big abnormal buzz for you guys to get right now. And I think take them with a grain of salt. That's kind of the point I'm making, is just that, are these things pathological? I don't know. Okay, I couldn't quite give you that. Did anybody catch any Comey testimony? Boy, it's like now government is reality TV. That's how much, again, I don't want to sound like the old man saying that, but it is pretty weird, okay? It's people, we're people like going to hang out at pubs and drink and watch the FBI ad just basically testify about the president. It's just a weird age we live in, but. Okay, do know the anxious ones as well, so I just want to take, I threw at least 3 of these on questions about these on the final, so this is not so much disproving PDs, but just kind of getting you to think about it. So anxious personality disorders, the one I want to focus on is, avoidant and paranoid, I think are kind of interesting, but let's just do avoidant for now. So of the anxious, you have avoidant. From what you guys learned in here, do you guys remember that we put anxiety and avoidance behaviors together? Remember, they do go together. If you suffer from anxiety, one of the ways you deal with it is by avoiding things, right? It makes a lot of sense. The disorder is similar to social phobia, and many people with one disorder experience the other. Similarities between the 2 disorders include a fear of humiliation, low self-confidence. Some people have called personality disorders across the whole, except for antisocial, and except for the schizotypal ones, as all big problems of what? Self-esteem. And I would not be surprised that in the day and age we live in, we basically branded and commodified kids. Does anybody feel like you're living the age where like we commodify people? Do you guys know what I mean when I say that? Do you guys know what a commodity is? A commodity is something that you sell, right? You ever realize that like we're teaching kids that like as soon as you get puberty, like well, you better be able to sell yourself, right? Better have a headshot. Better be able to. Like I said, that's kind of like a joke in Hollywood. Everybody's got to have their own headshot, right? It's like, but now it's like everybody has to have their own headshot. It's like ridiculous. The commodification of culture, I think, is creating a problem with self-esteem. I wonder if some of that also is it too. Just giving you opinion stuff, but it is from a clinical perspective. As many as 1 and 2% of adults have avoidant personality disorder, and this one's interesting. It's men as frequently as women. Okay, just look through the PowerPoint when you're studying. I'll put together some questions for Tuesday on some of these. So, also note here, early trauma is usually a part of most of these. Okay, that being said, let's go towards DBT. So, changing gears. I'm gonna show you this. This is off of Marcia, get her name please, if you would. Marcia Linehan.